Final presentation is by Adrian Rifkin, and I've been given very strict instructions to limit my introduction to that. And Adrian will explain a little bit about what he's going to do. Yes. So please sit.
I make these pieces now, which are PowerPoints, which are mad PowerPoints. I don't read out normally what's on the screen. Sometimes I say nothing, I just sit with my back to the audience, and they read it. When I think they finish, then I press the button.
That's good.
But in this case, there's a lot of writing, and I think with different language approaches, it's best if I do one of my other approaches, which is to have an argument with the PowerPoint. So you read what you can, and I'll get cross with it. I haven't seen it before myself. I made them quite quickly, and I forget them. So I haven't seen it yet. So this is the first time I'm seeing it. I just want to say to begin with, that for me, when I first came across Tagore, I was trying to get a friend today to make a combined German word for me, which would be something like snobbish upper class art lovers. And put it all in one word. And she said me the best thing was he was a Bürgerbildung. That was Bürgerbildung. Bildungsbürgerlich. Because all the people in England who like Tagore were upper class English art people, Bildungsbürgerliche art teachers. They said, Tagore, Tagore. And they were my enemy. So Tagore was my... In Germany, they were my enemy. So naturally I hated Tagore. So I made this piece which is to do with that. And it's to do with Berlin as well. I thought, seeing we're in Berlin, this should have something to do with Berlin. But also, as Andrea's rightly pointed out, none of us are really, some of us are, but on the English side, we're not Tagore scholars. And this reminded me of something important that the English film theorist Paul Williman once said to me. He said, I've been invited for the first time to Taiwan, and they've asked me to speak on English cinema, not to Taiwan, to Korea. And they've asked me to speak on British cinema, and I've refused. I've said I will only go if I can speak on Korean cinema, because I know nothing about it. And you speak to me on English cinema, and then between us we'll find out what we don't know. And I feel very much like that with Tagore. But in the last presentation, with the wonderful recitations, has come across something I've been working on just for myself recently, which is this whole myth of the Indo-European mother tongue and the role of Sanskrit in that. And what your very beautiful pronunciations were like, are what those 19th century linguists did. That they went through Sanskrit, Greek, modern languages, and from vowel sounds, they could produce the consonants of the lost, never heard Indo-European mother tongue. That it had these 5 consonants, which became all the vowels we have now. And it's completely speculative. It's like, not more speculative than black holes, and totally racist. And that was the context in which Tagore first came into London. Okay. Slide 1. Slide 2. Rabindranath. You know about Rabindranath Sangeet? Rabindranath Sangeet is all the songs people made out of all his work. But when I started working on this, I wanted to know, where do I stand? What can I say? Where can I work from? So I said, I'll reread a novel, and I'll see how many times Rabindranath is mentioned in this novel, and that will be my work, to explain all these occurrences. So I reread a novel I love by Vikram Seth, A Suitable Boy, a 950-page novel about India, and that was my work. I read it and I noted down every time Rabindra Sangeet, Rabindra blah blah blah, came in, and then that was my work. And what you see is that no one is in control of their own production. Where's the cursor gone on this wretched Mac? Come on.
Huh? Hit the right key?
No, I want the cursor. course.
Oh dear.
Slideshow.
No, I just want the thing, the arrow.
I guess you don't have it on the screen
I
presentation.
got it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is it plugged in? No.
Yeah.
It's coming out of that one. No, that is right, but it's not right.
Press play here.
Where is it? No one controls their own conduct. Rabindranath, Vikram Seth, Rabindranath, new Rabindra Sangeet on YouTube. And no one escapes their fate in our times. And on the top left, you saw the man was angry, he was furious. How can anyone listen to that sickly music of Tagore? How can anyone put up with it? How can people listen to that when they have the great classical music, the sickly music of Tagore? And this is what he meant by the music you should listen to. This is the right kind of music. Beautiful. And who are we to judge? Who are we to judge? The right kind, the wrong kind. And that's the right kind of painting to go with the right kind of music. But at the same time, what I wanted to talk about was something that's about moving from left to right and right to left. Links, rechts, links. We all have to do it all of our lives. On the road, in our politics, wherever we go, we have this problem of left to right and right to left. And it gets stuck with east to west and west to east. And it gets stuck inside cities, and it gets stuck globally, and it gets stuck super globally. Left to right, right to left, east to west, west to east. And sometimes it's just within that distance that it's left to right, right to left. So I thought about that, and I thought, where were the Tagores? Well, the thing is, Tagore's great-grandfather, I think, was very scholarly, and he wrote left to right, right to left, which meant he did Arabic script, and he did Urdu script, and he did Bengali script, all of them. He did them all, which meant that in some ways he was, in his own life, seeing what would happen with the partition. When India would be split up, left to right, right to left, east to left. She'll get stuck, I'll hyperventilate. And everyone would have to write in one direction to show where they belonged. So he did it. He wrote from left to right and from thruk to thuf. And so did Bach. Left to right and right to left. So we have something in common, east to west, west to east. But Ezra Pound, all those guys in England, they began by loving Tagore. Ezra Pound said that Tagore's Sanskrit was like the best Greek. W.B. Yeats said that he was like the poet, the Provençal poets of the Middle Ages. That's why they loved him. But once he became his own man, they dropped him. They dropped him stone dead. He went too far to the east, perhaps, and they went far too far to the right. So here's Rabindranath singing for himself. And here's more of the wrong kind of music, because this is entirely YouTube in our own day. Anyway, this is a tree that I'm not showing you. Now I'm going to come back to it at the end. Some of you will recognize it, some of you won't. It's a very important tree in the history of Berlin, but YouTube won't let us see it. Not YouTube, Google Earth won't let us see it. So we'll come back to it. I promise we'll come back to this tree because my paper is about trees, it's about songs, but it's about trees and songs and left to right and east to west with trees and songs. So we have plenty of trees and plenty of songs. Well, you know who he is, don't you? You all know he is. You're all good Berliners here. He's your hero. He's your god. It's Magnus Hirschfeld. And he went to meet Rabindranath, and the meeting lasted 20 minutes. And Rabindranath said, "I'm not feeling well," and he left the room. So that was Rabindranath, it seems, was very sensitive to the plight of women. If you see Charulata, a ray, you see that. You see that looking out. But Rabindranath could not see the dritte Geschlecht. He couldn't see what would happen in the world. And it's up to us to see that. It's up to us to say that meeting of Magnus and Rabindranath, it was a miss, but we still live on. And there's a young man wearing a Hirschfeld medal, the NGBK race. But now let's get serious, because the Nazis destroyed Magnus' studio. They destroyed it, and that's Magnus' studio. But the British fucked India, time and time and time again. And Marx said it. Do you remember who Marx was? Karl Marx? He's got a street just up there. I think he must have lived in East Berlin before the wall came down. Otherwise they wouldn't have a street for him. And Marx said that the British fucked everything in India. He said that in 1851. But they fucked the industry, they fucked the agriculture, they fucked everything. Just like they wrecked his office. So we've got something else in common, east to west. And that's the victors of Amritsar, the massacre of Amritsar, when Rabindranath gave back his knighthood to the British state. And you can see it's British soldiers and Gurkhas, it's British soldiers and the Quislings. So and that's still going on in our country today. Oh, the Gurkhas must have better pensions. So let's just cross that out now and try to forget the field of Amritsar and Magnus' office and carry on. Hirschfeld, actually, he said something quite nice about Tagore. He said he resembles a painting by Hubert von Herkomer. That's not Tagore, but it is a portrait by Hubert von Herkomer. And this is what Magnus said. He said, Tagore looks like a painting by Herkomer. His way of doing these veils and glazes, almost disappearing white. So there it is. There's Rabindranath looking at how Magnus thought he looked. And Edward Carpenter, the great founder of British queer politics, he too met Rabindranath. He met him on the same ticket as Yeats and Pound. He was attracted to Eastern mysticism. He was attracted to something beyond Western sexuality. And he thought he might have found it in Rabindranath. But he didn't. And that's not sad either. It's just another of those little misses in history that they got together and nothing came of it. And E.M. Forster met him too. E.M. Forster, where did E.M. Forster meet him? He met him in a living room in London, a living room like the one you see him sitting in there. He didn't meet him in India, he met him in Hampstead. I think that's very important. And E.M. Forster is there, taking interest in something, and you can see how he's dressed. E.M. Forster did understand Britain and he did understand how to go native, and he understood how to process these things east to west and left to right through his homosexuality. Here's another carpenter who met Rabindranath. He didn't meet Rabindranath, but he fell under his spell. And before the First World War, he set Gitanjali to music. And this is what it sounds like. In this way, Rabindranath, whether he wanted to or not, became a part of mainstream Western modernism in music. So that's the translation. We'll come back to it. It's a translation. It's a translation of Rabindranath into early, just about to becoming tonal Western music. Just a reminder, he sings for himself again. But again, how can you keep in control? How can you keep your work away from kitsch? You can't. It enters into the circulation of life. Look what this person did with Gitanjali. They put it on, that's for bouquets, it's for nice garden signs, and there are passages from Gitanjali to advertise bouquets, to advertise new plants for your garden. And there, but I won't put you through it again, is Kanchan where it's there. Well, he doesn't like it. So now you can't do that at all, and nor can I. But do you know what that tree is behind there? That's in Palestine. It's called the tree of Mamre. And it's the tree where it is supposed in the Old Testament, Abraham met the three messengers from God and offered them hospitality. It's a kind of important tree in the history of West, in the history of actually Hindu religion and Christian religion too, because the three messengers who came to meet Abraham at the tree were turned by St. Paul. We're going a long way around now, right to left, left to up and down. They were turned by St. Paul into the Trinity. That's the origins of the Trinity. And the great thing about Abraham, as an old Jew we can now forget, was that he foresaw the Trinity. That's kind of colonialism too. It's taking over someone else's religion and saying, it's ours now. But it's one of the reasons why all those guys were interested in Tagore and in Hinduism, because of the Hindu Trinity. And you could compare the Hindu Trinity of the main gods with our Trinity. And it passed into Indian culture too. Andrei Rublev and Jyoti Sahib both painted trees and trinities. There's an ancient Russian icon. And here's not the trinity of Jyoti Sahib, but one of his paintings with plenty of trees in it. There's Jesus with trees. Or are they crosses? Who knows? We won't bother. But I don't know if they've ever seen the work of Ravi Mourouet, Lebanese artist. And he's shown us that these are deep truths. When people get together in photographs after their deaths, when their photographs migrate from one site to another, and people who never in my life met meet in a photograph, and they're both in the same photograph, it's not a montage, it's the afterlife of photographs. That's what Ravi just taught us. And I thought, well, that's good then, because I can arrange these meetings too. Let's make people meet each other, who I always wanted to meet. Let's see what happens if we try to make that. Oh, no, I'm not there yet. We'll get there, we'll get there, we'll get there. Oh, no. What do I say? It's really contentious. It's about involutions of home and the world being just about anywhere, of pre-post-colonial figures getting ahead of the theory that will succeed them. So Rabindranath, in a way, had already undone the theory that was to comment on him, which is why he's so important for people like Gayatri Spivak. And tunes and trees and east. So let's see what could happen if we let him drift a little. There it is. Why not? Why shouldn't he meet Josephine Baker? I'd like him to have met Josephine Baker. They were both fucked up by Western culture in more or less the same kind of way. They both had to found educational institutes. They both had to adopt children. They both had to sing for their supper. It's very important. You heard Rabindranath singing for his supper. Here's Josephine. This comes back. J'ai deux. Pompeii, Paris. We can go east to west, left to right, and we can't quite tell where that will take us. But it could also go here.
What happens if Rabindranath happens in the Asian Dub Foundation singing Max to write songs? Or in a new configuration altogether, what would he do? This is music coming from London about the Maximites.
So it's right to left, and it's west to east and east to west. It's a month. Let's live with it. But then I wanted to come back to that tree. So here's the last tree. The last song, but not the last slide, because the last slide belongs to our project. Do you know this song? If you don't, you should be ashamed of yourselves. But enjoy it while you have the chance.
Die Pappel vom Karlsplatz. Eine Pappel steht am Karlsplatz, mitten in der Trümmerstadt Berlin. Und wenn Leute gehen übern Karlsplatz, sehen sie ihr freundlich grün. In dem Winter 46 froren die Menschen und das Holz war rar. Und es fielen damals viele Bäume, und es wurde ihr letztes Jahr. Doch die Pappel dort am Karlsplatz zeigt uns heute noch ihr grünes Blatt. Seid bedankt, Anwohner vom Karlsplatz, dass man sie noch immer hat, dass man sie noch immer hat.
Thank you.
Adrian, thank you, that was extraordinary.
It was a privilege. Thank you all for coming and for inviting me. Really, it's this is one of the institutions we've lived with for most of our adult lives, if we're this old, and it's lovely to come and do something at it. Actually,
Oh, that's fantastic. And also we should thank Antje and Elke again.
yes.
Goshka and Anna, who are the artists that are here, that are in the exhibition downstairs. I know you are, I was just about to mention that. And also the Opti group, who are also in the exhibition, in collaboration with the Tagore Pedagogy and Visual Cultures Research Network. Thank you very much.
And landings.
Sorry? And landings, of course. Landings, Vivian and Natasha. So thanks everybody for facilitating us and hosting us, and it's been fantastic. And you have the last word.
Yes.
Well, it's the most beautiful song ever written. Carl's Plan. In fact, you want to give me last word, I insist. It's the most beautiful. You agree?
Okay, we'll settle for that. Thank you very much.